Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Creativity and Compliance. Tom Fox is on deep background research today. So you just got me, Ronnie. And with us today it's pretty exciting. We got two folks from Acteon, Diana and Jason. Please say hello to Diana and Jason. Say hello, everybody. See, they can't hear, you can't hear them, but
Hello.
Diana and Jason, just to get us started, to get everyone acclimated about who you guys are, so we have some really interesting stories to talk about how you've been kind of reinventing your compliance brand. But maybe take a minute to introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about Acteon and your program. Diana, why don't you go first?
Right, thanks, Ronnie. Yeah, so Acteon, we are an organisation. We provide engineering solutions in the energy sector, so from the seabed to the surface, historically very much focused in the oil and gas sector. And we're now leveraging on that expertise as we transition into the renewable sector. I am currently the General Counsel and Chief Compliance Officer, and I've been working in the legal and compliance sector for nearly 30 years now.
Amazing. Jason?
Yeah, hi Ronnie. So I look after all things risk at Acteon, and that includes compliance, which is a really important topic and really a sort of key role that I think, and sort of as we'll get on to with the new eye care code, is just to make it a trusting place to work, just to make it somewhere that everybody feels quite proud and they're happy to come to work every day.
So amazing. So I've had the pleasure of getting to know you guys over the last year or so. So I thought let's take everybody through just how we met and the projects that we've been going through, because I think it's sort of an interesting case study it's just an interesting case study. So to start, you all approached us and said, you had a pretty decent idea. You're like, hey, we want to come up with a new identity, a character, a mascot. So maybe talk a little bit to the audience about like, why that was important to you, what was the initiative, what was the inspiration for it, and then we can kind of trickle down and get into the meat of what we actually did.
Okay, so the trigger for the change in our approach predominantly came about actually due to a change in ownership that we had about 18 months or so ago. We had a bunch of new shareholders and a new board of directors, and alongside health and safety, compliance is really important to them, and they really prompted us to review the effectiveness of our compliance program. And so that's what triggered it. And then, yeah, Jason, you can talk about our change in approach.
Yeah, so Ronnie, that when we sort of step back to think about it, we at Acton, we'd had a compliance handbook for a very long time. It was very traditional, it was very long, had lots of information in it. But the feedback we got was that they just found it really intimidating. They didn't understand a lot of what it was asking them to do, and it was just too difficult to use, and it was really becoming a barrier between us and the rest of the people in the business. So we really wanted to go back to basics and create a code of conduct that would help everybody at Acton navigate around the complexities of compliance and sort of do it in a simple way that everybody understood, but also to really create a code that everybody felt was theirs. It wasn't our code. It wasn't something that just sat at compliance. It was something that everybody belonged to everybody, and they really sort of had some affection for it. So that was the impetus, and sort of reaching out to you guys to work on the characters was a way to really sort of freshen it up and try and get it so we could do it in an engaging way.
Yeah, so you guys were great in that you kind of had the seed of an idea, right? So you had the impetus of like, all right, we're going to redo the code. We have this opportunity to invent ourselves, to create something from scratch, which is something not everybody gets to do. And you had a recognition that, all right, people have an impression about who we are, and it's not correct because we had this old handbook. So I applaud you all for having the honest conversation about Compliance can be a really loaded word to an employee. Like they don't get, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what they think you are and what you actually are, because you're trying to help them and trying to, you said, all right, let's, in the process of redoing this code or creating this code, let's create a new identity, a new brand. Talk a little bit maybe about how that, what was involved in that. And between the three of us, we'll sort of take everybody through kind of like the steps of how we came up with the new brand. And so, yeah.
Yeah, Jason and I kind of decided that it might be quite fun to involve some characters to help us with our compliance journey. So we had a sort of fairish idea of the different sort of approach that we wanted to take. We wanted it to be more fun, more short, snappy messages. And so we did some brainstorming with you and your team, and we came up, I can't quite remember the order, but anyway, we came up, I think, with the acronym first, so ICARE. So that stands for integrity, compliance, accountability, respect, and ethics. So values and behaviours that we felt really epitomised the messaging we were trying to get across. We loved that, and it really allowed a good play on words. And what's brilliant now actually is within the organisation, people call the code of conduct the ICARE code. People talk about the ICARE values, the ICARE principles. We rebranded our team as the ICARE team, so we went from being compliance and ethics to the ICARE team. We've updated our intranet page. We worked with you to come up with a new logo as well. And then our new spokespeople, I don't quite know what the collective noun is, but anyway, Connie Pliance and Easy Breezy, our two cartoon characters, which are helping us with our compliance journey. So they're quite different characters. Connie definitely keeps Easy Breezy in line and gives him lots of useful tips so that he can make good decisions, and she points him to where he can find useful information to help him make those decisions. And then that led to the code, which, yeah, Jason.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I think the one of the things the iCare concept allowed us to do, and this was something that we really leaned into when we rolled it out, was if you step back and look at compliance as a very kind of binary term, it's about rules and regulations, it's about laws, it's a very kind of black and white topic. But lots of the issues that we encounter, they're not black and white, they're not straightforward. And being able to really fill it out a bit more and to broaden it out into the concepts of integrity, accountability, treating everybody with respect, having an ethical approach, it really builds it out. It gives it a bit more muscle to, rather than just being sort of solely talking about compliance, which whenever somebody starts that conversation with you, you kind of wonder where it's going, because it can only lead to a wrong or right answer. And also the characters really helped us sort of talk about quite complex concepts and issues in quite a straightforward way, in a very sort of simple and very effective way. So bringing those together was really great.
So I want to break this down a little bit just to fill it out for everybody. So a couple of things that I really love about how this came together. One was the whole concept of I care. So it's an acronym. So the thing that I love about that is it encompasses a broader message, right? Integrity, compliance, accountability, respect, ethics. Each of those things are important. The word compliance has such a finger-waggy connotation, but being compliant with the law is important. So it's good to have that as a part of it. But I love how then the word I care has its own meaning. You start to build out a campaign. I care about our business partners. I care about my business colleagues. I care about doing business the right way. I care about speaking up. I care about the rules. I care about my accountability. I love the whole concept of this fresh meaning that can have a whole new personality associated with it. Yeah, so build on that a little bit, and then we'll talk about the characters and the code.
Yeah, I think as Diana said, I mean, we've really leaned into it in terms of the rebranding and just that whole sort of move away from just talking about compliance and using eye care, it softens it up, but it also makes it more, people identify with it more, because it's sort of, it kind of reinforces that sort of that caring and respecting element that I think everybody, whether they sometimes might not demonstrate it all the time, everybody's got quite a lot of affinity for.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting about the concept of branding or creating an identity in general is that it's a connective device, right? It both has meaning, but it's also, you can start attaching that to all your resources so that when people see eye care, they know what it means. Same thing with the characters. We did a lot of talk about what spokespersons have been around forever. The Geico Gecko. In the U.S., it's always insurance companies that seem to have right, spokespersons. So in the U.K., maybe you probably have different ones. But the idea of a spokesperson is not a new concept. So I love the idea of, we have Connie Pliance, who's pleasant and approachable, but she's going to talk about the rules. And then you have Easy Breezy. Acteon wind turbines is a big part of your business, so Easy Breezy kind of fits into that. And he's more, hey, yeah, come on, life's easier when we do things right. He kind of explains things in more of a, I don't know, I think we described it as sort of a Hawaiian kind of like chill, laid back vibe. So I love the pairing of that. In some ways, it's like the compliance vibe and the ethics vibe, right? There are rules, but let's explain the rules. So I love the fact that we were able to combine those two personalities and then start intertwining them into the code. And then the code itself, one thing that I enjoyed about that was the fact that we sort of went through everything that you wanted to say, and we got rid of all the you musts. Anything that felt like a finger wag, punishing language, and tried to soften it with, we're the kind of company that does these things. And then here's an example given by Connie, and here's what Easy might say about it. Maybe just talk a little bit about how we intertwine the characters in the code.
So we, as you say, try to make the code firstly really inclusive and engaging, and it's short and snappy so that the paragraphs are pretty concise. You can click through and get further information if you need it, but we try to use language that people could relate to. As Ronnie, you managed to get a few gags in there, which I think helped. I think my favourite one's still about the screening of third parties when Easy Breezy's off to a beach and he says he's packing his suntan lotion, and Connie reminds him that's not the only screening he needs to be doing. But anyway, so we've got a few jokes in there. It's very sort of light-hearted, but it is language that is easy for people to read and digest, basically. And it's a pleasant document to read. It doesn't take long to read it, which means that there's no excuses for people not reading it. But if you need further information, it's all easily accessible within the document as well.
Yeah, it reminded me that one of the things that we also did was we sort of took a look at a lot of different codes that are out there, because they're all publicly available, as is the Acteon code. And you start going, oh, I like this. Oh, I kind of like that. We sort of figured out a color scheme and an orientation and an organizational structure to overlay it, all with the idea that it could be more pleasant, shorter, always shorter. And then you work together to find your own sensibilities. We're always going to try and push for more creativity and fun, and you're going to say, okay, I like that, that's a little too far, and you find the nice creative balance. But remember that these things are for human beings to consume, so human beings like things that are short, punchy, and tend to be fun.
And I think also as well, it's finding the balance between it not being a document that people see as a box tick, we're telling you all this and these are all the things that you need to do. It's getting the balance between that type of code and one which maybe doesn't go into so much detail, but really just gets the idea over, gets the concept over, and then you can then use it as a gateway to more detailed policies which go into more detail about a particular topic.
Yeah, I try to remind people, and you guys get right on board, which is that if they don't remember anything other than there's a team that's there to provide help and support, that I'm accountable for the rules, but if I don't know, I'm going to go talk to Jason and Diana,
absolutely.
or I remember Connie, I remember Easy. What are those guys again? So I love that you all embraced that. I thought the next thing is the launching of all of this. So talk a little bit about how you have people all over the world, lots of different languages, people on, as you said, from the seabed to the surface. You got people on out in the ocean and working on rigs and all that stuff. So tell me how your process, I thought it was really interesting how you guys launched this concept.
Yeah, so as you said, we've got about just over 2,000 employees working globally, lots of different languages, people in different bases. So it was really important that we could make the code available in all those different languages. And also with your help, Ronnie, creating the introduction video, which was a great way to explain in a very short amount of time why we have the code, what its purpose is, and what it's going to be used for. And the thing I really liked about the video concept is really in 2-3 minutes you can get over something that might traditionally take a 20-30 minute PowerPoint sort of walkthrough, which by the time you're not really too sure if too many people have remembered why they've joined.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the video was really good for that, and then we put it on YouTube, which allows you to select from a whole range of different subtitles so that people in different languages could use it. And then we converted the hard copy into a flip book, which mimics a real book, gives you that swishing sound as you move it across the pages. And it's got hyperlinks, but we can also track. We can use the metrics to track who's reading it, which links they're clicking through on, how long did they take to go through the code, how many times have they accessed it, and so on. So combining those all together, we've managed to get a really high level of engagement across the company in quite a short space of time.
And then there's so you have basically the code that launches a flip book. You get the video that kind of introduces it. We came up with some graphics and GIFs and things like that, so you can post on social media or use internally on social media.
Posters.
Because you got it. So this is good for a lot of people who have a workforce that's not always in front of a computer. This technology of QR codes has existed for a while, but providing a simple graphic with a QR code, one that links to the video and one links to the code, I thought was just a really way to use existing technology to make it more accessible for people. And then you all did a roadshow. I loved it how you did it. You've been doing this for a while, so talk a little bit about the roadshow.
We did. We kicked off the roadshow. We started in US, went out to Brazil, Middle East, Asia, finished up in Europe. I think it was about 4 months we were on the road, wasn't it, Jason?
Yeah.
So we visited all our key locations globally. In all, we delivered 34 sessions at 22 different locations. The sessions were really interactive. So we started them all off with a sort of interactive Slido quiz as an icebreaker. We talked around the eye care principles, the importance of speaking up. What it wasn't was death by PowerPoint. So we didn't walk them through each page of the code. So we asked people who hadn't already read it to go away and read it. But by the time we did the sessions, a lot of people had already read it. It was really interactive and good fun. There was good participation, and those in-person sessions, I think, were a real game changer in getting the message across.
What was that? I feel like the questions you asked were something like, what's the name of our two characters? How long does it take to read the code? Tell me a little bit about
we forced everybody to watch the video at the beginning. So we've watched the video probably about 100 times. so we could probably verbatim tell it. Yes. But then we had a series of questions about the video, and as we found out, we used in the multiple choice about who the characters were, Scooby-Doo and Daphne, and apparently everybody knows Scooby-Doo and Daphne, whichever country you go to. So we're just trying to make it a bit light-hearted and but a sort of serious point, and also as we went through it, sort of going back to using Slido to ask people a few series of questions about scenarios. What would you do? What would you use the code for? Questions around gifts and entertainment and screening new customers. And then if you saw somebody being harassed at work, we used a word cloud to say, what do you think when you're seeing this situation? What would you do? What would your reaction be? So it was just a way, as Diana said, to make it more engaging, and so that we weren't sort of walking people through it. We're actually explaining our thinking behind it and what we wanted the code to be and how we wanted them to use it.
So I don't want to gloss over this, because I think one of the interesting things is that, like, some of the questions you're throwing the Scooby-Doo question out there, like, what's the name of our characters? Is it Scooby-Doo or Daphne, or is it Connie and Easy Breezy? Whatever. It's something that's not that complicated, but it keeps them paying attention, and then mixing in more of the serious stuff with some fun stuff. And okay, and so what are some of the... Did you have any success stories to share? Did you have some metrics about how well it went? Just maybe tell everybody, like, this whole concept that we worked on over a couple of months culminates with people reading the code. Tell me a little bit about what the results were.
Do you want to go first, Jason, with your sort of personal success?
For me, one of the things that we were really sort of impressed, and we actually used, because being in energy, we always try to start meetings with a safety moment, and health and safety is really important to us as an organisation, and we work in a high risk environment. But we used the concept of psychological safety as our link into a safety moment, and just really trying to sort of emphasise the importance of speaking up. And the reaction to the number of speak-up cases that we've had following the introduction of the code, and we actually introduced a new speak-up line at the beginning of the year as well, has been amazing. We've received a huge number compared with previous years. And the interesting thing, they've been quite varied. They haven't really been compliant. Some have just been observations, some have been, I saw this and I didn't know what was going on, and they've been easily explained, but then other things have triggered some further investigation and work. So for me, that's a sign that people see us, they trust us to open up, address these issues. And I think that's been a real big success.
And for me, I think my sort of personal success was just the power of the in-person sessions. So you really must not underestimate the power of meeting people in person, engaging with them, openly recognising that compliance is not an easy topic. Jason and I, we didn't go out there and say, oh yeah, it's easy, this is how you do it, these are the answers to all your questions. Made it clear that we don't have all the answers. Everyone in the room won't have all the answers all the time, but whenever you're not sure, then just speak up, have a discussion with someone about it, whether that's your work colleague next door, someone in HR, your line manager, the speak up line. But don't sit there and kind of like stew and get stressed out about something and sit there in a silo and make a bad decision. Go and have a chat with someone about it. So it's very much turning up and being authentic and showing that we really care about the iCare principles, and ultimately they're principles that resonate with everyone. So for me, the success was that roadshow and making sure that we went out and properly met people and engaged with them.
Yeah, like the phrase that you've heard me say before that I love is the main evolutionary significance of humor is it gets people from the closed mode to the open mode quicker than anything else. So that's a John Cleese quote from Monty Python. But the idea of doing something creative, interesting, provocative, out of the ordinary sort of disrupts people's expectations. And it makes you guys more approachable. So the fact that you had a creative asset that you could share, and then let your personalities come up and show that you're real human beings and help them. I love the idea of pairing the video asset and the code with and using that as a way to get out in front of people. Now, you're not going to be able to fly out every year, but now there's other ways that we can start using the characters to maybe interview you over Zoom or be part of other courses or be part of other videos. It's another way to sort of pair the human element with the creative element to kind of make everybody more approachable.
Yeah, and in terms of metrics, so we managed to get just around 99% of the employee base to work through the code, and we managed to do it in a reasonably short period of time, which was a great success over previous years. And we also just did an employee culture survey, and around about 80% responded to say that they knew what the IKEA code was, they lived by the values, they'd seen those behaviours in practice with their team. The one area which is understandable, which was less, was around how do I use it practically, proactively in my job, how do I use it? And that's understandable because we're at the beginning of this journey. So that's probably the next step that we need to now start. And we can use the characters to do this to explain when you're going to a sales conference. And what do you need to be looking at from a gifts and entertainment perspective? If you're in contract negotiations, make it a bit more specific to what people are actually doing on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's a journey we've done with some other organizations as well. You start with the brand and the identity, a new approach, whether that's the name, logo, characters, whatever, and you introduce this. You guys have used it to launch the code. Now we can use it either for scenarios or for explaining policies. So that way you can always mix the important thing with the fun thing, right? To increase the digestion of those. So I love that. Yes. All right. We talked about what's next. So that's essentially trying to use the characters for training and communications. And we'll be doing that over the next year, a couple years or so. And for those the name of this program is Creativity and Compliance. And the reason that Tom and I started this several years ago was because pretty much everybody who leans into this kind of, not necessarily the specific creative approach, but the idea of doing something creative and fun, almost always has success. But it's a risk-averse community, right? Compliance people are risk. So there's a lot of people who are like, I like this, but I'm not sure. Or I have a really conservative company. All those things. What advice would you give to those out there who are like, they want to do something more creative and they're just not sure how to go about it? What are some of your thoughts about giving advice to the rest of the community?
For me, it was about stopping. Sometimes you have to stop, take a long, hard look in the mirror and realise that maybe your compliance messages are no longer working or no longer being effective, which I think had happened at Acteon. And so you need to do something different. So for us, that creativity was the route into doing that. And so we thought long and hard about the approach we wanted to take. And basically, the discussions Jason and I had, we came to the conclusion that, look, ultimately, at the end of the day, we hire good people who really care about what they do. They have good values at their home, in their home life. For example, if they have kids, they teach those kids to behave in a certain way. And basically, what we wanted was for people to bring those good, solid values into the workplace, really. And instead of treating everyone as some sort of rule breaker, people don't come into work each day to break rules. So it's realizing that everyone has these good values. So let's embrace that. Let's get everyone to realize that all we're asking you to do is to bring those values into the workplace to help you make the right decisions. And it's not easy. There's black and white, but there's an awful lot of grey areas where you need to make a judgment call. And that's really not easy. And it's in two cases, it's very not the same judgment call that you have to make. So look, we're all here for each other. We all want to do the right thing. We want to be that organisation that people want to work for because we have good values, that our customers want to use because they know we're going to do the right thing. They know we're going to screen our partners. We're not going to take shortcuts. So it's getting that message across. So taking a really different approach to how you treat people. And I think it's something that compliance culture, it's moved on leaps and bounds, I think, different over the last sort of few years. And people are taking a very different approach to it. And for us, bringing in that creativity enabled us to really shake things up, and for us to put our own sort of like personal mark on, this is who we are, these things are important to us, but as an organization they're important to us, and for everyone that works for us, these are values that we hold really dearly and they're really important to us. So the creativity kind of enabled us to do that.
Yeah.
Jason, do you have anything you want to add?
And I think for me, for many people, compliance is a mystery. They don't understand it. It's very scary. It's something that nobody instinctively wants to feel that they're on the wrong side of. So anything that you can do to make it simpler, easier to understand, and therefore people just know what's expected of them and know what's right and what's wrong, then that's going to make the message land. As Diana said, that's the whole point of it. You want to make sure that your messages are cutting through and they're actually landing with people.
So I love it. It's sort of you said it really well, like, because all the compliance professionals out there listening, particularly ones who listen to this episode, they're trying to connect with people. I think they get the goals. And the thing that I want to emphasize is that we used these creative approaches to shake things up, to put your own mark on things, to open up these conversations with people so that you can have more, so they can get to know you, they can get to know your program, what you stand for. And I love that you've had, gosh, everybody read the code, your speak up numbers are up, and we're only really at the beginning of this journey, right? Because it's a constantly evolving thing. You guys out there listening, try new things. This is a global conservative organization. People care deeply about the issues, and guess what? They did something creative and fun, and they're having a lot of success. So don't be afraid to try new things out there. Thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you guys so much, and we'll be checking in with you from time to time over the years to see how it continues to go.
Thanks, Ronnie.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Bye.
All right, bye, everybody.
That was great.
Oh,
really good.
Look at you, Tom, joining us for the end.
How about that?
I thought you were going to ask if we need another take.
Can we do that again, but with feeling? Yeah, no, that was great. I was just in the background checking it out. Thanks, you guys, for doing this. I don't know if we'll get it up next week, but in the next couple of weeks for sure. Thanks very much. It was great hearing the story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
He'll post it for a while. I'll probably do a second post a week or so later, so it goes on his social channels, it goes on mine. We'll share that with you, and then we'll connect up separately. I'm happy to debrief if you want, but it was great. But we should probably connect up whenever you're ready to sort of talk about what's next.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Compliance Podcast Network. Start your mornings with daily compliance news, quick, sharp updates on the top compliance and ethics stories in under 5 minutes every morning in Compliance Podcast Network. Because compliance never sleeps. Need practical advice fast? Check out Compliance Tip of the Day. One actionable idea to level up your program. Short and sweet, every day on Compliance Podcast Network. Got 10 minutes? We've got the week's top 10 stories. 10 for 10 brings you the big compliance headlines. Fast, fun, and focused. Every Saturday on Compliance Podcast Network. And don't miss the Sunday Book Review, where compliance meets culture through must-read books and big ideas every Sunday in Compliance Podcast Network. Whether you're in the office, on a walk, or commuting, stay smart, stay ethical, stay tuned. Only on the Compliance Podcast Network. Available wherever you listen to podcasts.